Welcome to Meet the Candidates. My name's Eric Crump. I'm with the Homewood-Flossmoor Chronicle. My guest is Yumeka Brown. She's a commissioner with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District and the village clerk of Matteson. We're going to talk about some of the reasons she decided to get involved in politics and run for the 2nd District in Illinois. She has a lot of ideas about environmental justice, about mental health care, and public safety. And also, we're going to discuss a little bit about how a new congresswoman can get involved and make some of those priorities into realities. So welcome, Yumeka.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Okay. You're running for the 2nd District in Illinois. So I was hoping we could start by just telling us a little bit about your story, about how you decided to get involved in public service and what led you to run for the 2nd District.
Yes, so I am a resident of Matteson, Illinois, and when I was deciding, my husband and I we were trying to figure out where we wanted to live back in 2016. So we decided that we were going to purchase in the village of Matteson. And many people were like, well, why? You know, they're losing businesses and so many things are happening. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to, move there and then I'm going to get involved. So I started coaching youth basketball. I'm a former basketball player. And so, that was really fun, and that was my way getting engaged and kind of really working with the youth. And then later, I decided with the pushing of my brother that I was going to run for the village clerk seat that had become vacant after the clerk retired at 83 years old. And I was like, I have a skill set in, administration, budgets, and running businesses and all of that. This would be a good fit. So I ran in 2017 for that role. Which we've done some amazing things with, just opening government and making sure it's accessible. And then, unfortunately, my son got sick around, a few years later with an environmental illness called blastomycosis. And something I had never heard of, and many people in the community hadn't heard of it. Thankfully, he's doing well. He's in his last year of college at Jackson State University. But that was a really trying time for my family. But once we got him better, I became a pissed off mother because I really wanted to understand, what is this and why is it showing up in our communities? And, no one had answers. I called the Illinois Department of Public Health, the CDC, and it's a very small percent of people that, breathe in this spore and cause all of this havoc in their body. And so as I learned more, I started to unveil a lot of the, or it revealed a lot of the environmental injustices in our communities. And so I wanted to, make sure that what happened to my child did not happen to anyone else's. And so I decided I was going to run for commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District because I know that the work that they were doing had, it protects, public health. Clean water is important as well as clean air because what goes on the ground, it usually goes up in the air. And so people are like, well, hey, you don't have the background in this. Like, what do you know? It's so technical. But in my personal professional life, I am a governance professional, and I know that boards, it requires many perspectives, many voices, and I believe that that's what makes an exceptional board. So I ran around the county, all square miles of it, saying we need environmental justice, we need representation on MWRD's board, because at that time, from the south side of, or South Loop, all the way until you get to the border of Will County and University Park, nearly 2 million people did not have representation on MWRD's board. And so that is important because now they have a voice at the table. And since that time, I've been able to, along with the Board of Commissioners, direct $85 million in infrastructure projects to communities that were unseen and forgotten. So that's just a little bit about my story and why I came. I just started out as a mother who was mad. And, if you find a mad mother, we start a movement and we begin to make a difference in our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's true. You want someone who's got passion for and a mission, a sense of mission.
Yes.
Get things done, right? And that's, I think, where we want to turn next is what you want to get done if you're elected to Congress. So what are your policy priorities and projects you'd like to tackle if you go to Washington?
Yeah, so as a commissioner at MWRD, I have seen things environmentally through a different lens. And what I'm seeing in a lot of communities, unfortunately, the environment isn't a priority because many communities are focusing on public safety. They're focusing on keeping food on the table, keeping their lights on. And so, then you have some communities in this district where that is a priority. They want to make sure that they have access to Lake Michigan, that their dogs can swim in it, that their kids can swim in it. And so, if I go to Congress, I want to continue. My why has not changed. I want to continue to focus on environmental justice and bringing infrastructure projects and federal dollars and infrastructure projects to communities that need it the most. You'll see Fort Heights, they need infrastructure and federal dollars, as well as some communities on the northern side of the 2nd Congressional District. So I plan to focus on that. I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago in the Roseland community. And it has been an epidemic of violence and deaths. And so I plan to focus on public safety. That is the second core principle of this campaign because families deserve to live in communities where they feel safe and their kids can go out and play, and we minimize gun violence in these communities. So I plan to focus on stricter gun laws, like where are these guns coming into our communities, and because oftentimes they're not purchased at the store, they're coming across borders such as Indiana. And so how do we address these issues that are really impacting families in the 2nd Congressional District? And also more mental health. As you know, a year ago when this administration stepped into place, a lot of the mental health dollars were just cut. And so we have communities with a lot of unhealthy people. And so when you couple that with the violence that we're seeing in the communities, we need to make, that's something that I really want to focus on. Affordability. We've heard that time and time again. People are doing everything that they believe is right. They're working each and every day, but it's still not enough. So I plan to fix that problem. We need to raise the minimum wage, but also being mindful of what does that look like for small businesses. As a small business owner, I know how difficult that can be when these federal mandates come in, but we also need to look at solutions where we can support the small businesses, but also have wages that people can live on comfortably.
The goals you have also require getting on the ground and doing the work in Congress, in the halls of Congress. I was wondering what kind of preparation you've made in terms of understanding how the power works and how you actually get in there and make some of your goals a reality.
Yeah, so, even as the village clerk of Matteson, while I do not have a vote on the board, I do know how to collaborate and build relationships to get things done. That's one thing that that's been very important to me about working at the local level, because I'm able to understand the needs of everyday average people. I'm not too far up or not too far down, but we're talking to people and they're telling us what they need. As commissioner, we at the district, we represent 5 million people in Cook County with a $1.7 billion budget. And so I've been able to work with other commissioners to say, hey, prior to me coming on this board, we had no representation, and we have all of these problems that we need to fix on the south side of Chicago as well as the Southland. And I believe that it's going to take someone who is able to reach across the aisle, talk to people, explain the issues that we have. Unfortunately, now more than ever, we're seeing at the national level, there is civil discord and everyone is fighting and the people are losing out. So I think that that is a skill set that is going to be needed in Washington, D.C. I know how to work with people. I know what people need, and my goal is to deliver the services back to them.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to shift to a couple of other topics that are kind of top of mind right now, but also are going to have implications into the future for anyone who's in Congress. One has to do with artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And the way it's poised to transform our entire economy. I know we all want our Congress representatives to help us with job development and economic development. But I'm going to read you a couple of things just to kind of set the stage here. One is the title of Eliezer Yudkowsky's new book. It's If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies. Pretty dramatic. He's talking about like the advanced AI that would be super intelligent, way more intelligent than any human, which is a direction he thinks we're headed. Okay. There's also a company called Mechanize that says, and I'm going to paraphrase their mission statement, wouldn't it be cool to replace all human labor with AI? Basically, that's their mission, is to make human labor obsolete, and they think that that is inevitable.
Yes.
It's going to happen. Right? Then on Hard Fork podcast in September, the hosts were talking about the scale of investment in AI, and they said that the interstate highway system took 36 years to develop. It cost $3 billion in today's dollars, and AI companies in the U.S. alone are spending $6 billion in 1 year. So that's double the cost in 1/36 of the time.
Yes.
So with that scale of investment and both the goals and fears of the people who are developing AI, my question is, we got a lot of people out there, and it's not just blue collar workers, it's everybody, white collar, software developers, everybody's going to be affected by it. What kind of role can Congress play in guiding that vast transformation, do you think?
Yes, I think, well, first I want to say I embrace technology, but I definitely think we need a balance because one thing that AI does not have is sensitivity, compassion. There's no emotion in AI. You put in what you think you may want and it's going to give it to you. And then there's a level of fact checking because it doesn't always compute correctly. But I believe that as a congresswoman, there should be federal mandates on what that looks like in our communities. I work in the healthcare space, and there is technology for doctors to use AI. I don't know about you, but I don't want AI diagnosing me with anything. And so I think that there are some principle and guardrails that should be put in place on the federal level to protect people. Because we can't have a world without people. That is impossible. The other concern that I have is really environmental. Because the AI takes a lot of data and these data centers take a lot of water. One thing for sure that I know that we can't have a world without water. So again, we need to have federal mandates on how many data centers are popping up in various communities and also ensuring that these data centers are not popping up in Black and brown communities because that's what we see a lot, that happens a lot. It's like, okay, this is great, we love it, but we're going to put it over here and we're all going to enjoy it, but it's not spread across equitably throughout whichever region that is. So I believe Congress' role is to have mandates on environmental justice, also protecting our environment, as well as protecting people, because it's not, I would say it's not AI proof that, we can live, 100% freely with just AI alone. I use AI. I think it is a great tool, especially, in the workforce when often you have burnout and you're over, just over your limit and you have this source or a system, but I think it should be used in partnership and not, standardized alone. And I also believe that AI only gets smarter with what you put in it. Like we make it smart. So we need to be careful about how smart we make it because we don't want a world of robots and then we're just getting rid of people. And, I think about when I go in a grocery store and when we would start thinking about, people, having cash registers without people, that works, but then that also takes away jobs. And so those are the things that I think as a congressperson that we should look at because we have that power to do that and we should always keep people first.
That you mentioned Congress's power. That's actually my next subject, which is kind of a big one these days. The trend in our country for maybe a couple of generations has been a slow erosion of congressional power and effectiveness in favor of a stronger executive branch. And the Trump administration has basically just taken that ball and run with
A
it.
whole nother level.
Yeah,
A whole nother level.
I mean, I've just got a little quick list of some top-of-the-mind examples, like the administration defying congressional subpoenas, taking military action without consent or consultation with Congress, DOGE crippling agencies that were set up by Congress,
Yes.
funded by Congress, withholding grants, some of which were supposed to come to our community, just kind of decided they didn't want to pay them. Yeah. And the big one that's causing the most immediate disruption is immigration without supervision.
Yes.
Congressional representatives trying to inspect detainment centers and being denied access. There's so many instances of constitutional rights being violated on camera.
Yes.
And so the question, I guess, is in that environment, if you're walking in as a new congresswoman, do you have ideas for how to navigate that space and try to reclaim Congress's role as a co-equal branch?
Yes.
Big question, but I mean, all Congress people have to
Yeah.
be involved in that.
We
right?
have to think
So,
about that.
yeah.
Well, I think it's a good time because people are tired. And, I'm not in Congress right now where they're really taking the brunt of what's happening. But I do believe that we need to take our government back. And, I've been reading the Constitution, and when I look at the preamble of the Constitution, it says, "We the people." So the government really, truly belongs to the people. But what's happening over time is that people don't trust the government because of all of the things that you mentioned. So it's going to be a tough fight. I don't think it's going to be easy. But you really need a fighter in Washington, D.C. When you look back at history, we fought for so many things, and all of those things are being repealed back, whether it's reproduction right, immigration policies, grants coming into our communities. And so we need someone to say, no, you can't take this. The rule of law is important. And so I think the Supreme Court is going to play a huge role in that and who we have on the Supreme Court. And, and I think intentionally, Donald Trump has placed people there that when these things escalate, then he still has a voice even there. And so that's something that we need to look at, like making sure that we're fighting for the rule of law and also ensuring that people trust the government because people are not voting because of it. As it relates to immigration, my first goal is to eradicate ICE. I think having a weaponized agency within our communities is horrible. And for any person to be treated like a dog on the street because they want to come to this country and fight for or have the American dream. And immigrants paid, they helped build this country. And so I don't think that that's the way to go. So it is a very complex issue right now, but it's something that I plan to fight for because the harvest is dying. And I think it's our generation that needs to plant our own harvest because we've been inheriting a lot. And so now it's time to get in the fight, roll up our sleeves, and we need to take our democracy back.
I'm glad you mentioned ICE. That has been the agency that's been the focus of most attention. The question that always comes up, there's a lot of people who are really appalled at the way they behave, but there's also the question then of how do you do immigration enforcement properly? I mean, do you think there is needs to be a different agency created with different rules and different attitudes, I guess, towards immigrants?
Yes, I certainly believe that we need to protect our borders. I had an interesting question come to me yesterday about, immigrants come to this country or maybe they're fleeing from another country and they're receiving services that, even people that live here, were born here, they're not getting those things. So that system is clearly broke. So I think we need to do something. But I also think we need immigration reform to have a pathway for the dreamers who want to come here for the American dream, not complex paperwork, making things very difficult. And that's something that I plan to, work on, part of legislation to ensure that people can come to this country to live and to find, the American dream. And in addition to that, we need to reform it as far as how we treat people. I think whether someone is here illegally or not, they should still be treated with dignity and respect. They should not be taken away from their children and treated like a criminal. We have criminalized immigration because people want to come here for a better life from whatever they're leaving. And I will fight to make sure that we do not criminalize immigration, that we eradicate ICE, and that we treat people with dignity and respect.
Okay, thank you. Those are the basic questions I had. I wondered, though, if there are issues that are close to your heart that we haven't talked about yet, that you want the community to know about how you plan to serve, and I guess in the background, I'm still have this lingering question about how.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
the ideas of enforcing the Constitution or enforcing court action or enforcing Congress's will. What if the executive doesn't comply? Then what do you do?
Yeah, so I love what our current Congresswoman Robin Kelly is doing. People are literally dying because of this behavior. So I believe that when people are not following the law, then they should be treated like every other resident in this country where you have to face charges, whether that is impeachment, which she's doing with Kristi Noem right now. I think we need to continue to escalate that. And I am seeing, even on the other side of the aisle, that they're saying, hey, this is not what democracy looks like. And I think when you're able to work on both sides of the aisle and come to a common ground of what this country should look like and work it, whether that's Republican or Democratic, then you can say this is what leadership looks like. Right now, he has taken the law into his own hands. And unfortunately, when someone does that, then you have to use the law, but we need the rule of law to be in place and have, people that are going to say, no, you cannot do this. I have never seen this many lawsuits in the history of this country because someone is not following the law. And I think we just have to stand on, what's legal and what's not. And I think the more people that you can get on board, whether they're on the left wing or the right wing, to come on board to say, we can't live like this, then our country will be in a much better place.
All right.
Yes.
Any last words?
So the last words, I'm just encouraging people to get out and vote. As the village clerk in Matteson, working on the local level and, doing a listening tour around this district, people are tired of politics. They just want someone that is going to bring back that neighborly love and taking care of one another, leading with compassion and conviction. So I just want people to know that I am that person. While I do know that you need to be a fighter to get things done, I also lead with compassion, because that's what we need to be able to understand the people in our communities and meet people where they are. Because sometimes, or most times, people are building things for us without us. And I've lived in this district my entire life, and many of the issues are still the same. Whether you are a Democrat or Republican, whether you have Donald Trump or Obama in office, some things just hasn't changed. So I think you need someone that's going to be able to get into the seat, lead with compassion in a bipartisan way where you can work with all people. I'm willing to work with anyone who is willing to help me bring federal dollars and investments back to the 2nd Congressional District. Please visit YumekaForCongress.com, learn more about me, and join this movement.
Thank you. You just reminded me about a question I forgot to ask. So one last question.
Okay.
Just want to check your position on the South Suburban Airport, which has been a long time in development.
I think,
Not there.
I'm from when that discussion started, to be honest, I was probably in high school. And I think, I think about the environmental impact of another airport. I think that that's important. And I also think about, we're looking to build this runway, but we barely have good roads in our community. So I am more focused about taking care of the everyday people, while that, I haven't seen any data or anything that supports that we need a third airport, but I have seen data and things to support that we need better roads, better bridges, better, infrastructure in the communities that we live in, so that we can reduce flooding and things like that for every day. I think it's been a shiny pearl that has been dangled for a very long time. And not to, belabor this or, just keep talking about it. But the other thing is we need to build the workforce, because oftentimes people say, oh, we're going to bring all of these great investments and businesses into the community, but the people here do not even have the skill set to work those jobs. So how do we build the capacity for, logistics workers or pilots or, just different jobs, so that when it does, or if it does come here, then we have the people that can actually go in those jobs to change their situations. And that typically does not happen. So it's a workforce issue, it's an environmental issue, and then it is an infrastructure issue that we're currently seeing, that dollars are always going somewhere else. And there have been millions of dollars put into this project, which those millions of dollars could have come back to these communities to help them right now. Over the last 20 years, we've been having this discussion.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Let me sneak one more in. Thank you again so much.
Yes,
for
thank
joining
you
us.
so much.
Appreciate
This has
it.
been great. Thank you.